Welcome everybody, it's Adrada back here, and today I'm going to be explaining to you guys the second game draft model. This is going to be a game where everybody is going to be having horse in their capital and iron is going to be quite far away. So how does this change things, especially to game number one where everybody had that iron available? And I think this is going to be a much more interesting conversation with way different picks. So now let's get into it. This video is intended to show two purposes. On the one side, explain to you guys how the draft model for the Civ picks works, and on the other side, how the resource situation in this tournament affects the Civ priority. Now, in this video, I want to take a little bit of a different approach. I'm going to be exposing my picks for you guys first, and then I'm going to be giving you guys my reasoning and arguing back and forth for how I think these picks should be going. Now, as you can already see, in first I have the Egyptians as the highest tier Civ in this draft. I'm going to be filling in the other picks as I'm explaining to you guys along the way, and then afterwards we're going to be looking at my rationale for this. And I know that there are some controversial picks here, but bear with me and feel free to leave your suggestions, your criticism, and your counter arguments in the comment section or in the Twitch chat. Now, these are the sixes I envision could get picked on these horse capital maps. Now, there's no Zulu on here, which might be surprising, but we'll get to that in a second. So my rationale is as follows. Just like in the previous model where everybody had iron, there's three civilizations that have unique units with the resource given, in this case with the horses. So we've got Egypt and Hittites, which produce chariot units, and we've got the Iroquois, of course, that can produce better horsemen. That is key. However, I don't think the Hittites are as high tier as Civ as the other two are, simply because the chariot doesn't feature a lot of kill pressure, in my opinion, at least not compared to the other unique units from Iroquois Egypt or also Persia, Rome, and Celts in the previous video, hence why they dropped down a bit in priority. Now, the Mayans, I believe, are still quite good, even though they are weak on defense and might suffer tremendously when faced against civs such as the Iroquois or the Egyptians. However, they've got pretty decent GA timing in order to get a big horseman stack going, and that upgrade could be very powerful. So I still think they're going to be a potent civ on this. Now, the Aztecs are very up in priority because I think they're as close to Egypt as it gets. Now, they're not industrious, and the Jaguar is a bit worse than the War Chariot. However, you can come out of the gate with Jaguar production, which is pretty strong, and on a map where 80% of the other players are your enemies, the Aztecs might be quite successful at finding early kills or pressure. So that's why I got them very high up in priority. But feel free to let me know if I got it all wrong, in the Iroquois, which I could still very well see go as first pick, are actually the strongest. I just think that Egypt having horse capital 100% of the time just sounds too good to be true, so I think they might actually be the strongest Civ on these types of maps. Now, to the other points, I do believe that Aztecs, Incans, and Zulu are all quite good still, because you can pressure the enemy early. You've got two movers that can mess with the enemy horsemen, horseman stacks as well if necessary, and they do put down early pressure as they do on every map. So in general, in this 2v2v2 tourney, I think early pressure is quite effective. However, what is not effective is some civs that I rated decently high in the last video, which is Babylon, Greece, and Sumeria, because they're quite useless when you're not actually getting to block enemy resources or scale up for free. And while you still might be able to turtle at home for a long time, build a bunch of cities, and score pump, you're not going to be able to deny enemy resources. Horses spawning on flat land 90% of the time at least makes it so you're quite easily removed from the enemy resources. So you're probably not going to be able to hold on to those resources. And also, it's not very obvious for you as the choking player to even know where the enemy horses are going to be. Nobody starts with the wheel tack in MPT, so as opposed to the previous video about iron, where some civs had a clear advantage starting with bronze working, this is not the case here. So you're pretty much never going to be able to find the enemy wheel, the enemy horses rather, before he does. And thus I don't think these choking civs or these defensive civs are going to be as good. I also think that Persia, Rome, and Celts are absolute traps and should never be picked on these horse-only maps. Now, there is iron on these maps, but it's always going to be at least 4, 5, 6, or even 7 tiles removed from your capital city. And remember, guys, in my previous MPT tournaments, Celts have already been very overrated and have had terrible win rates just because they never got to hook their iron. And on these maps, the iron is going to be even farther away on average. So I don't think these types of civs are going to actually do very well in this setting. So this is what I came up with in the end. Egypt is my perceived best civ in this kind of scenario. Aztecs as the closest thing to it. Think of it as a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant type stuff. We've got Iroquois in number 3, which could very well be number 1 as well. I just do think it's a little bit awkward getting that getting that horseman stack up, since you can't really use your GA very well to upgrade a ton of chariots. Now the Incans are still the Incans, they're also agricultural, and if you're in the situation of the middle team here, Jesus team having to pick 2nd and 5th, it's a bit awkward that you're the only one who doesn't get any agricultural civs, so maybe that is something to look at and strategize about when planning for a draft in the middle position here. However, you are then relying on getting a kill if you don't have any aggressives, and Aztecs and Hittites might be able to get a kill or two either way. Now, that's going to be all for my thoughts on this one. Let me know where I got it wrong and where you disagree, and which civs you expect to see on these horse cap maps. And please tune in to game number 2 of the tournament that is going to be featuring the first one of these maps on February 14th on my Twitch stream. I'll see you guys there.